I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Lavi.
Salty and Chip.
It's 12:52 in the morning, and the faithful informed us that there was a BEHEMOTH track out.
So here we are.
So
I was
we're
about
gonna
to go
do it.
start grilling supper.
But we're unhealthy and we're workaholics, so here we are.
Yep, here we are.
This is Wolves of Siberia from the big homie Nergal. Shout out to the big homie. Let's do it. Wolves of Siberia. Are you doing now?
What? I didn't expect you to start so soon. Go. That's interesting.
Okay. What'd you take from that?
Well, I mean, it looked like a situation that happened with Eve.
What do you mean?
Well, he talked about Eden in the song, and then there's a woman, she's by herself, she's picking fruit, and then there's this wolf coming around, and then the wolf chases her down and then kills her. Yeah, devours her.
Kills her, yeah.
Yeah.
I was watching this interview with, was it Eric from Watain?
Yeah.
He was talking about his philosophy or version of Satanism or whatever is about being hungry and consuming. Mm-hmm. So always being hungry, you know. Mm-hmm. So the name of the song is Wolves of Siberia.
Okay.
Don't know really why Siberia. Siberia are like these really extreme conditions. Mm-hmm. So to be a wolf there, you got to be a tough motherfucker.
Oh,
You got to be
yeah.
able to survive
Yeah.
and thrive, and then like dominate that area. To be
Yeah.
a wolf in Siberia. So like, if you look at the world, Nurgle seems to me to be about like, not so much like spiritual animosity towards God. He seems to be more about human empowerment, like exalting human beings, and it looks like his perspective on religion is that it's a force for disempowerment in the world. And so he speaks against religion, namely Christianity, because he sees it as sort of a way to disempower human beings. And I think in his mind, there's no way to have true human empowerment and human exaltation and hold a religious or Christian worldview. Like, it looks to me that he thinks that you have to choose between one or the other. You can't have both. Because when he was talking about us, he didn't seem hostile to us. He was
No, not at all.
And he said, like, we need to be allies with thinking people. And he said something to the effect of, like, you know, these guys are more thoughtful than some of our fans. You know, which I thought was a pretty provocative statement.
Yeah, I thought so too.
But true to form, I mean, he doesn't give a fuck. You know, like, whatever.
Yeah.
So, like a wolf, I've been, like, dwelling on the title Wolves in Siberia because I saw a clip. I knew that this was going to be a single because I saw a clip of them live and he was debuting Wolves in Siberia. So I knew this was good. So I've been thinking about that term for a while, and it's just like I said, like the conditions, the living conditions in Siberia are pretty terrible. So it's like if you can, and of course as a guy who fought and overcame leukemia,
Right.
and to our knowledge didn't really turn to God for it, but was just his own human sort of, I'm gonna beat this. Of course, from our perspective, we still say God was with him.
Right. Right.
But from his perspective, he's saying it as whatever your Siberia is, you know, whatever, because for him it was probably the hospital bed and chemo or whatever it was that he had to go through. But, you know, it might be a bad situation. It might be an abusive household. It might be oppressive religion. It might be your fucked up atheist boyfriend who beats the shit out. I mean, it could be anything. That's your Siberia. And this is like encouraging you to be a fucking wolf and overcome that shit. But don't turn to God. Like, find the strength within yourself to overcome it, looks like, is what he's saying.
Okay. Well, where?
And enthrone thyself, O archhuman.
Oh.
It's like the opening line.
Oh, I read that as Archumen. That's why I was like, what is that? I thought it was like some god or something.
No, I think he just made up the term. Arche,
Yep.
you know, like archangel means chief.
Yeah.
And then you've got human, which is interesting because we've talked about Nietzsche's Übermensch.
That's so interesting.
The overman.
Yeah.
It's not Superman, it's Overman.
Yeah.
But it's an Übermensch, I think. Übermensch. I don't know, my Nietzsche experts think I'm missing it. But whatever. You know, it's like this sort of this philosophy that we as human beings can, like,
Yeah.
you know, Nietzsche, it was something else. It wasn't overcoming adversity. Nietzsche was more meta than that. It was like building an entire culture and society and thriving world without the concept of God. But here, it seems to be about like your own personal, you can like become the best,
Yeah.
the pinnacle of humanity.
Yeah.
And it says enthrone thyself, you know, which is language of like, you're the king, like make yourself the king or the queen of your given realm.
Yeah. It's interesting, like the way that I'm assuming that he doesn't know about Genesis where God says, he probably knows, but maybe he doesn't understand it when God says, let us make man in our image.
Right.
And like where God gives us that glory, because that very sentence, how thou shineth in the realm above planets, rumble as you descend upon the globe, to walk this earth like a shimmering God. Like that is,
Right.
like he's right. He just doesn't, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
biblically it's true. Because what is the name, like, is Elohim also for people? What is that?
People are called Elohim.
People are
Elohim
called-
literally is the mighty ones.
Yeah.
So there are human beings called Elohim in the Old Testament. Of course, God is mentioned as an Elohim, and the angels are called Elohim. Samuel, when he gets raised from the dead to go talk to Saul, is called an Elohim. So, there's that quote from C.S. Lewis that says, if you were to see a glorified Christian,
you would be tempted to worship.
You would be tempted to worship.
Right.
Because he says, like a shimmering God, not that you were a shimmering God.
Right.
And so, again, it's mind-boggling to me that, but I don't think that this is a doctrine that a lot of Christians really pound.
Yeah.
The doctrine of glorification.
No.
Most Christians don't realize that this is the end game for us. You know what I mean? Most Christians don't realize that. Most Christians, when they talk about being saved.
No, I think that a lot of Christians think that there's glorification in the end, but I don't think they realize that there was glorification from the very beginning, and that from the very beginning, God made us in His image, and He made us to rule, and
crown with glory and honor.
I don't think that they realize that, and so they walk through their lives what I mean. But
a lot of this
looking forward to heaven when they're going to be glorified. I think plenty of Christians believe they're going to be glorified.
Most Christians think they're going to be some spirit on a harp somewhere. They don't even believe they're going to have a body.
Yeah.
You didn't think that. You didn't think we were going to have a body.
Yeah.
So, the idea that you're going to have an actual physical body that is actually superhuman.
Yeah.
Most Christians don't realize that, and they certainly don't pound it. And I agree with you. They also don't teach that we were this, and then we fell. See, there's a lot of biblical themes here that are absolutely true. I was watching this thing on Vice one time. It was actually the first Vice documentary that I listened to. It was about Liberia, the Vice Guide to Liberia.
Yeah.
And Liberia is just this terrible place where it was like hell on earth. It was literally hell on earth. People were, every woman had basically been raped. There were a bunch of child soldiers, and then there was this guy named General Buck Naked. And they would all fight naked because they felt like if they fought naked that they were superhuman and that their enemies couldn't see them.
What?
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. This is.
I believe that you would draw more attention to yourself that way.
Well, he was feared because he was such a fierce warrior, and he had these boys with him, and they'd go into battle and fight. He had these little kids with him. Before he would go into battle, he'd sacrifice a kid.
Jeez. When was this? Recent?
Yeah, the Vice Guide to Liberia. That was 7 years ago. I can show you the clip. But once I tell you the quote, you're going to realize it. So he sacrifices this kid, and he's on his way to jihad. He's got the blood. He's going to go fight. And then he sees this vision of this guy in all white in front of him. And the man says, "My son, why are you slaving?"
Oh, yes, that's right.
And he responds by saying, you can see this on Vice Guide to Liberia. We're going to put it in I'll try to find the clip on YouTube. So anyway, this guy in white shows up to him and says, "My son, why are you slaving?" And then General Butt Naked responds by saying, I'm not a slave, I'm a king." And then the person says to him, "You're right in saying that you're a king, but you're living like a slave." He says, "Repent and live, or don't and perish." And then the guy disappeared. And of course, General Butt Naked interpreted that as Jesus speaking to him. But it was very, very interesting because that's exactly how Jesus talks in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
And because when Jesus meets Paul on the road,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
He asks him questions and says, "Why are you doing this?"
Yeah.
But it was just an interesting line to me back then because I hadn't developed my theology on the exaltation of human beings. So here's this guy at the basis level of what a human being can do, and God says to him, "You are a prince. You're right, but you're living like a slave." So when you are not who God tells you to be, that's when you're a slave. You were born to be a prince. And then Jesus said, "Repent and live, or if you don't, you're gonna die." And dude repented, he became a preacher and all this shit, and then he was going around, and all the people that he killed, their families wanted revenge and all this. And it was interesting because the narrator on Vice was almost fascinated / offended that all these people were listening to him, and he was this celebrated preacher when he'd killed all these people.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He's like, this motherfucker, he's bodied all these people, and everybody's just celebrating this dude, like, you know, whatever. But anyway, so like, the understanding that human beings are supposed to be exalted.
I'm confused though. Like,
what?
So then he was killing his own countrymen?
Oh yeah, it was Siberia. They were locked in a civil war. Everybody was fighting for prominence.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah.
But the idea that human beings are supposed to be like these semi-divine beings.
Yeah.
And that you're supposed to, you know, the first command is be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it. Is God saying dominate? Mm-hmm. Actually, is you know, when God the Father and God the Son are having a conversation in Genesis 1, it's let us make man and give them dominion over the earth. Yeah. Let them rule. So it's like God was like, we're gonna create human beings and they're gonna run shit on the earth. Like, and so the idea of being in the image of God is this idea that you are God's representative on the earth. So like when you walk the earth, you are his vice regent on the planet Earth. And so that's what a human being is. So like there's a lot here where I'm saying, yes, that's true. Like,
oh yeah,
be that, be a wolf in Siberia, be, you know, of course for us it's like that's a demotion.
Right.
But in our modern parlance, it's like, oh, you're an animal, which even biblically it says that, right? Because Jesus is compared to a lion. You know, that ferocity. So even there, it's like we can roll with that. Like,
so wait, when it says wolves of Siberia, you're saying that that's the people that he's saying walk around like a god, then he's talking about them like they're wolves of Siberia?
Right. I
think the wolves were bad. They devoured that woman in the video.
Well, I think what he's saying, it's in the world, you're either A or B.
Oh.
You're either the devourer or you're devoured. You know, there's people who the world happens to, and there's people that happen to the world.
What do you think he means when he says, let it be forever heard, we lost our Eden to own the world, let it be forever known, we lost our battle to win the war, come all. Oh. So is he saying it's better that we're out of Eden because now we have the whole world?
Well, right.
So he doesn't understand that God originally gave us the whole world. We weren't supposed to stay in the garden.
Right.
He doesn't. He must not know that.
Yeah, like Eden was supposed to be Washington, D.C. We were supposed to spread out and dominate the world. We're never supposed to say that.
But everybody thinks that we were going to just be stuck in the garden forever.
Yeah, everybody thinks that we had this little one space of land on the planet and that God just wanted us there naked and dumb and stupid.
Yeah.
And you know, that wasn't the goal. That wasn't the plan. The plan was we were supposed to own the entire planet.
Right.
And that Eden was supposed to be ground zero, and that actually there's a lot of theologians who are of the belief that God left the rest of the world basically uncreated so that Adam and Eve and their sons could finish the job. So when he says fill the earth and subdue it, because there was still a lot of wildness left in the world. So they were placed in Eden to basically, God says, okay, this is how it's done. Well, the rest of the world doesn't look like this, so go finish it. So, and that's why, like,
no mistaken.
well, yeah, because when he fell for it, because that's the trick of the devil, right? Which is God doesn't want you. Right. You can't live under God's authority and still be as exalted as you want to be. Like, if you live under God's authority, you're down here.
Yeah.
You can't have Eden and your own autonomy. And so, you know, and this is kind of a play on the whole, what is the profit of man to gain the world and lose your soul?
Okay.
Because look, let it be forever heard, we lost Eden to own the world. See, it's like a flip. Like, you lost Eden to own the world, and it's like, no, when you lost Eden, you lost the world. Like, that was the end of it. That's what set entropy in motion.
Right.
You know, like we lost everything when we lost Eden.
Right.
Including ourselves, and we lost Eden and the world because we lost our souls. And that's the interesting thing is in the New Testament where Jesus says, what is the profit of man if he gains the world and loses his soul? Because in the New Testament thinking, if you go for the world at the expense of your soul, you lose your soul and the world. Yeah. Because we always say there's a new world coming. But if you gain your soul at the expense of this world, you get your soul and the new world that's to come. Right. Because the new world that's to come is going to be given as a gift to the children of God, it says in Romans 8. So it's just this very, very interesting idea that, you know, when it says the meek inherit the earth. So you have this like meek woman that's just, oh, she's just this meek little woman. But then you have this ferocious wolf, and the wolf devours her.
Yeah.
And then, you know, essentially she's going to, you know, go back into the earth, right? So she doesn't inherit the earth. So that's the message of the video, is like, you got to be this, you know, wolf of Siberia. You got to be this hard, strong person that devours the world, because you can't let shit just happen to you.
Wow.
If you're just going around picking fruits and shit, you're done.
Right.
You have to go get it. And
right. Wow.
You know, it's interesting because it gets like a little bit Gnostic here when he says, "We hail the ice beyond bosom, beyond materia."
Yeah.
So mater, M-A-T-E-R, is a prefix for mother.
Yes.
So when we get material,
Yeah.
that's sort of like the root of all that is like the physical things that we can touch are like the feminine aspect of existence.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's why so he says beyond bosom, that's feminine, beyond materia.
Oh, okay.
Material, because M-A-T-E-R, mater, is a prefix. It means mother, right? So like the material is the mother of things, physical things is the mother of existence in the physical world. But Gnosticism rejects that.
Okay.
Right? So in Gnosticism, God, what we call God, Yahweh, is like this demiurge. This is basically this evil God who created the physical world and got us in this fucked up situation in the first fucking place. That's Gnosticism.
I didn't know that aspect of Gnosticism, or I didn't remember that.
Yeah, that's why in...
I knew that it was like, aren't they like against knowledge or something like that? Like...
No.
Yeah.
Gnostics have secret knowledge.
Oh, secret knowledge.
Right.
Who are the ones that are against knowledge?
Well, there's nobody that's really against knowledge. There's agnostics who say they're against an objective claim that you have full and complete knowledge.
Yeah, no, it's not what I meant. But okay.
But nobody's like against knowledge.
So there's secret knowledge?
Yeah, Gnostics held that they had secret. That's why in Colossians, Paul says that the secret wisdom is in Jesus, because he's playing on the Gnostic idea that they have some sort of, and that's why it's like when Jesus talks about the deep secrets of Satan in Revelation in the letters to the churches, they weren't coming saying, we have the deep secrets of Satan. They were saying they had the deep secrets of God because they were Gnostics, and Jesus is turning it around to saying you have the deep secrets of Satan.
Oh, okay.
But, so it's like what he's saying. It seems to hear he's saying that there's something to the human soul that's beyond just the material world, because he says we reject it. Of course, the Christian response to that is, of course there's something to the human that's beyond the material world. But you don't have to reject the material world either. Right? You know, like the resurrection is like the ultimate kind of like, no, the material world is important. So you don't have to like reject the material world to get to a certain level of enlightenment. But of course, if you're mixing Gnostic Satanism, then it makes sense. Let it be forever heard, from slave to king, from king to man. Let it be eternally known. We fled from the heavens to have the world. I don't think he said have the world. I think he said rape the world, which he said before when he's talking about, I think it was Ora Pro Nobis Lucifer. In Ora Pro Nobis Lucifer, he was saying that he was raping the star system or something like that. So,
well, when people talk about, I've heard people talk about like what we're doing to the planet, and we're like raping the planet.
Yeah.
So, do you think that he has like a
I just
healthy to the planet mindset?
No, I don't think so. I just think he's talking about he's using provocative language to say that we have to be aggressive in this world, otherwise we won't survive. Wow.
That's a tough world to live in.
Well, he's right though. I mean, anything that what are we doing right now? It's fucking 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And we found out 10 minutes ago that the thing was there. So like we're pretty aggressive. So he's right. Like you got to be aggressive about shit. You can't just lay around and just let life happen to you.
Well, yeah, in that sense, but
you got to engage.
We're not consuming the meek when we're doing this.
No, and I agree. I mean, and of course, the concept of the meek inheriting the earth is like completely turned on its head in this aspect. And it's like, for me, especially for me as a person who has a relationship with violence and have an aggressive personality, when they present the world as, when you present this sort of binary world where it's only, you're either a wolf or you're a woman who gets devoured. You're either pick. You know, like finding a third way that says, okay, when Jesus says, I'm sending you as lambs among wolves, right? So it's like, how do you inherit the world? How do you dominate the world from a perspective of a person who refuses to dominate other people?
Yeah.
Because that's what Jesus is saying.
Yeah.
When he says the meek will inherit the earth, what he's saying is that it's those who refuse to dominate others are the ones who are going to dominate the world. So how does that work? And, you know, I think, you know, if you look at Christianity, first 3 centuries, we were the meek. We were getting slaughtered all over the place, but Christianity was spreading like wildfire. And then Constantine put the sword in our hand, and everything went haywire. Everything people hate about Christianity happened after Constantine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not he's not solely responsible.
No.
It's just human nature.
Right.
But we were doing a pretty damn good job at spreading the faith before we became the aggressors. When we were not the aggressors, we were doing a great job, and our testimony and the believability of what we were selling, we were paying for it with our blood. And people were like, well, shit.
Yep.
This is some shit, because we've never seen this before. Which is why, you know, people say, oh, Christianity is declining. Where? In the West? When every other Christian has some M4 or AK-47 in their closet? Sure, it's declining there. But you know where it's exploding? In China?
Right.
When they're getting slaughtered like crazy. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's very interesting. It's one of those things where it's like, Christianity has so many paradoxes about existence that are so fascinating to me. So on the one hand, it's like, you are told to be strong, you're told to be brave, you're told to be fearless, you're told to dominate the world. That's what it says, to have dominion. And that has never been, it's called the dominion mandate.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't realize this. There's a thing called the dominion mandate, where we're mandated to dominate the world, which is what this guy's talking about. But as the Bible unfolds, it shows you how you dominate the world, and it's by serving everyone.
Right.
So it's like
blessing the nations.
It's right. But bless as many people as you can, serve as many people as you can, and then die for your enemies.
Yep.
And if enough of you guys do that, you're going to bring about a new world. And then when that new world comes, you will dominate it. But then you will be fit to dominate it. Because it'll be an entire kingdom full of people who have learned the lesson from the previous world. Because I don't think we're going to forget those lessons, you know. And I think that that's what's going to bring in the new world here. So like, this is one of those things where it's like, there's a lot of truth in here. But I don't believe that you have to sacrifice Eden for the world, and I don't believe that you're going to win the war. You know, we lost our battle to win the war. It's the idea that, you know, they got booted out of heaven, but we won the war because we're living on the earth and all this. Like, I don't believe that. Like, following God's way is the only way. Like, the more and more I talk to people, the more and more I talk to people, and the more and more I hear what people say, the more and more I'm confirmed that this is literally the only way.
I know, me
like,
too.
It's not even and I'm not saying it like it's the only way you're going to hell. What I'm saying is, like, for all the complexities of human life and our inclinations and things like that, things like this that are so true, there's a reason a band like this is big, and there's a reason that philosophies like this are big. It's because there's truth in them, and there's a lot of truth here. But there's a lot of cyanide in here too. Because I don't think Nergal lives this way. Like, when I saw him with those kids, like, he wasn't a wolf. He was meek when he was with those kids. See what I'm saying? Like, you know, and wolves will devour other people's young all the time.
Yeah.
Like, the real, I mean, the real wolves in our world who go and, like, devour anything they want whenever they feel a hunger are behind bars. Like, those are the actual, like, true cult wolves.
Yeah.
He's not advocating for us to be, like, complete and total wolves. He's advocating for exercising certain human energy and power to overcome obstacles while at the same time reining in other inclinations. And that's the reason. And
Where do you see reining in other inclinations?
Well, not in this song. What I'm saying is his life doesn't reflect that he's living this out in extremis, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, he's not living like this in every aspect of his life.
Yeah.
Like, those parents wouldn't have their kids all around him.
Right.
And I don't know the guy at all, but I could just tell in my spirit that he's a very gentle person, actually. And so it's like, it's so interesting that on the one, if you were to ask him how does he actually live his life, I think he'd say he activates that wolf side of him when there's an obstacle or something that he has to overcome. But then he reins it in a whole bunch of different circumstances. He doesn't punch that guy in the face. He's good to that snot-nosed kid. He's this, he's that. And so it's like, that sounds very much like Jesus, right? Like, on the one hand, he's a lion. And so when you had wolves who were fucking with his sheep, he wouldn't play around. Like, he would, you know, he turned over the money changers and all that. He was one dude. You know, they had temple guards.
Yep.
But the look in his face, nobody wanted to fuck with him.
No.
You know, one guy.
Yeah.
You know, but then with other things, you know, with Judas, he never strangled him. You know, he actually gave him the seat of honor in the Last Supper. A lot of people don't realize that. So, like there's this, like, the lion. You know, the metaphor for Jesus is a lion, and he knew when to let the lion out, and he knew when to tame the lion. And so Nergal is talking all this, like, yeah, be a wolf, dominate the world, eat everything, consume.
Yeah.
But he doesn't live his life like that. He lives his life closer to what Jesus does. Or closer to what the Bible tells you to be, which is be a lion, be a warrior. You're a king. But you've got to be a humble and a gentle king. And you got to know when to use the sword and when not to use the sword. And, you know, it's the whole warrior in a garden thing. You know, because the Bible never tells you to, there's this weird doctrine called quietism. I never talked to you about it, but it's like this, you just stay there and just let life happen.
A monk, right?
Well, no, the monks weren't quietists. Quietism wasn't about talking per se. It was just about just quietly letting passively life happen to you. It was called the heresy. The church said, that's some heretical shit. You gotta do shit. You know, and they used Genesis 1 as their
really?
You know, God didn't create Adam and drop him in the garden and tell him to be a quietist. He put him to work. And you know, he was supposed to do jihad against the serpent. And his quietism when the serpent was talking shit is what fucked everything up.
Right. Yeah.
And so the quietism got dubbed a heresy.
Yeah.
So like,
okay.
You're not supposed. The Bible doesn't tell you to just sit there and be whatever. You know, you have. You know, you don't call a coward. You don't call a coward meek. A coward is a coward. As a matter of fact, at the end of the Bible, there's groups of people that end up in hell, which you could. The liars, the sexually immoral, the sorcerers.
Yep.
And the cowards.
Yep.
They'll go to hell. So like, when the Bible tells you to be meek, it's not telling you to be a coward.
Right.
A coward is somebody. A coward is somebody who doesn't act because they're scared. A meek person is somebody who doesn't return violence for violence, even though they could, for a higher cause. And God says, okay, those are the people that are gonna rule the next world.
Right.
Right, like these are strong people who are, and that's the bravest thing to be is a meek person. The worst thing to be is a coward. The understandable thing to do is to be violent when somebody's violent to you. But the hardest thing to do is somebody who can exact some violence or attack back and not do it. That takes a lot of strength and bravery. And so Jesus says, okay, if you live a life where you're constantly exemplifying that type of strength and bravery and wisdom and control, then yeah, the world's gonna be yours. So anyway, very good song. I like the lyric. These are probably my favorite lyrics.
Oh, really?
Of his, yeah. Because it wasn't like, oh, Satan, blah 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 blah.
Oh,
like
yeah.
to me, like this is like probably the closest to his actual philosophy on life. You know, I think that there's some problems with it, but I think that this is very, very close to what he actually believes. I think the Satan stuff is just like archetypical. But what's interesting is he talks about man now. He doesn't talk about the devil, because the devil to him is like the archetype of the ultimate man. But here he's like, okay, let's just go with man here.
Yeah.
And I think that that's pretty close to what he believes. So
what do you give this one?
Musically, I wish they would have done more. Musically, I liked the God Equals Dog one. The God Equals Dog was my favorite soundtrack musically from them. This one is my favorite lyrics from them. So what did I give God Equals Dog? Was it a 9? This is a 9 for me.
Wow.
This would have been a 10.5 if it would have had the God Equals Dog soundtrack to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For me, I was a little bit bored with this one. Like, it seemed a little repetitive. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't feel like that there was anything like new sounding.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know. I gotta. I mean, I still think
It
like
didn't sound as unique as God Equals Dog.
no, it didn't. That's the thing. It didn't sound. I was like, it sounded like, I was like, okay, this is Nergal. This is, but Behemoth. But like, that's Nergal's voice. There's, it just seemed like very them. Like, I like it when there's something that kind of throws me off or freaks me out a little bit. But I like them overall, so I would still give it an 8. But
it's a 9 for me. But I mean, I just love Nergal.
I know.
I love him.
I know you do.
Yeah, I don't know. Shout out to the big homie. I really, really like these lyrics. When we talk Nergal, we're gonna have to talk about this.
Yeah. Vin's gonna ask you some
Because
questions.
I know you're gonna see it. Don't pretend you don't see it. You're gonna see our
So
stuff.
how are you doing tonight?
How are you doing? Yeah, good song.
I saw
Good
you
stuff.
stepping on that man statue. That was weird.
What happened? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was really weird, homie. What the hell, man? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Oh man.
Vin out.
Sorry, out.
Gone.